Okay, let's unpack this. We are standing at the edge of a cliff today.
Oh, absolutely.
Or maybe, maybe more accurately, we're standing at the entrance of a basement bar for the very last time.
That's a great way to put it.
Because we are looking at the end of an era. And I really don't use that phrase lightly.
Yeah. No, you shouldn't. It really is a massive, significant moment in television history. I mean, we are talking about a show that didn't just exist on the schedule, it completely dominated.
Right.
It essentially defined a decade.
Exactly. So for you listening, we are taking a deep dive today into the 11th and final season of the legendary sitcom Cheers.
Yeah.
And to set the scene for you, we are mentally transporting ourselves back to the early 90s. Specifically, this season aired on NBC from September 24th, 1992 to May 20th, 1993.
Which is just a fascinating cultural window.
It is. You've got the Chicago Bulls in the middle of their first three-peat. Bill Clinton is in the process of being elected president. And on Thursday nights, America, and I mean practically all of America, is just parking itself in front of the TV.
It was a completely different time in terms of television consumption. We throw around the term water cooler shows now.
Yeah, we do.
But back in 1992, if you didn't watch Cheers on Thursday night, you basically didn't exist at work on Friday morning. You couldn't participate in the culture.
Oh, completely. You'd just be standing there nodding while everyone else talked about it. And our mission for this deep dive is pretty specific. We aren't just going to sit here and recap the jokes for you.
No, that wouldn't do it justice.
Right. We have a stack of data in front of us, primarily the detailed Wikipedia records of season 11. And what we want to do is explore exactly how a titan of television says goodbye.
Yeah.
We want to look at how the writers deliberately dismantled the status quo, the absolutely bizarre storylines they finally felt free to write.
Some of them are truly wild.
I mean, we are going to talk about biospheres and literal arson today.
Yes, we are.
And, of course, the staggering cultural impact of that grand finale.
And we say staggering, the numbers in our source material really, really back that up.
They absolutely do. And we are going to get into those numbers in just a second. But first, just to orient everyone, we are looking at this core ensemble one last time.
The heavy hitters.
Yeah. The return of the core cast. We don't really need to list their character names. If you're taking this deep dive with us, you know exactly who they are. But the actors, Danson, Alley, Perlman, Ratzenberger, Harrelson, Grammer, Neuwirth, Wendt.
Right.
They're all here. And the showrunners, Tom Anderson and Dan O'Shannon, are at the helm. But what's really interesting is the state of this cast at this specific moment.
It's a very transitional state.
Exactly. They've been doing this for a decade. They're undeniably tired. They are extremely rich. And they are basically ready to move on.
That's the key to understanding this season. By season 11, the actors had outgrown the characters in a lot of ways.
Right.
You have Woody Harrelson actively transitioning into a genuine movie star right in the middle of this.
Yeah.
You have Ted Danson vocalizing that he's looking for something new. So Anderson and O'Shannon had this nearly impossible task of steering this massive, heavy ship into the harbor without crashing it into the docks.
So let's look at the lay of the land first. Setting the table with segment 1 here, the ratings juggernaut. Because looking at this source material, the very first thing that jumps out is that this show was not limping to the finish line.
Not at all.
It was sprinting.
Well, completely sprinting. If you look at the viewership data provided in our records, it's actually difficult to comprehend by modern standards.
Well, walk us through the numbers game here, because today a massive hit show on network TV gets what, maybe 3 or 4 million live viewers?
They are incredibly lucky.
Yeah.
But looking at the season 11 logs, throughout the entire season, the U.S. viewership regularly hovered between 22 and 29 million viewers.
22 to 29 million for a regular run-of-the-mill weekly episode.
Yeah.
That's essentially a small country tuning in every single Thursday.
It really is. And for some context, let's look at the season opener, The Little Match Girl. That aired on September 24th, 1992.
Okay.
That specific episode pulled in 28.7 million viewers.
Nearly 29 million people tuning in just to see how the final season begins.
And it's crucial to note that it wasn't just premiere hype. Sometimes a show spikes for the premiere and then fades.
Right.
But if you look late in the season, specifically, episode 23, Rebecca Gaines, Rebecca Loses, which aired May 6th, 1993, so right before the very end.
Yeah.
That episode hit 30.8 million viewers.
30.8. That is wild. It's actually gaining significant momentum as it goes, because usually by season 11 of any show, you see a massive drop-off, don't you?
Almost always. It's referred to as franchise fatigue. The audience usually drifts away. They find something newer, something shinier on another network. But Cheers, in season 11, was performing at a level that would literally be considered a Super Bowl number in today's fragmented media landscape. This wasn't a show being put out of its misery. This was a victory lap.
Right.
Frankly, NBC would have happily kept this show going for another 5 years if Ted Danson hadn't pulled the plug.
It's the absolute definition of going out on top. But I noticed something really interesting in the production notes here. While the ratings were rock steady, the cast configuration wasn't exactly perfect. It feels like there was some logistical friction behind the scenes.
You're referring to the Woody anomaly.
Yes, the Woody anomaly. The source material explicitly notes that Woody Harrelson does not appear in certain episodes this season.
Right.
Specifically, he's missing from episode 4, The Magnificent Six, and episode 13, Norm's Big Audit.
And he only appears in the cold open of episode 14, It's a Mad, Mad, Mad Bar.
Right. So think about that. Here you have this massive ratings juggernaut. But one of your key players, maybe the single most popular character at that specific moment in pop culture, is just completely missing for chunks of the final run. What do you make of that?
It's the harsh reality of Hollywood crashing into the sitcom fantasy.
Yeah.
You have to remember the context of 1992 and 1993. Woody Harrelson is blowing up globally.
Right, he's everywhere.
White Men Can't Jump had just come out and was a massive hit. He's actively filming Indecent Proposal. He is making that very rare, very difficult transition from TV star to movie star, and those shooting schedules simply do not align.
It must have been an absolute nightmare for the writer's room.
Oh, undoubtedly. And you can see the strain of the scripts if you look closely. When Woody isn't there, who carries that specific comedic load?
Yeah.
The lovable, naive energy is just completely missing.
Yeah.
It forces them to lean much heavier on the Sam and Rebecca dynamic, or they have to give Cliff and Norm significantly more screen time to compensate.
It definitely changes the flavor of the show. It reminds you that even though the series is this well-oiled machine, the actual human parts are moving on before the show formally ends.
Precisely.
It's like watching a band starting to break up right before the final encore.
That's a great analogy. It's a subtle, almost subconscious signal of the end. You're watching this perfect ecosystem struggling to sustain itself because its components are literally becoming too big for the container.
Speaking of breaking the container, let's move into segment 2 and talk about how they actually started the season. Because if you're a writer and you know this is the definitive end, you want to make a statement.
Oh, absolutely.
And boy, did they make a statement here. Burning down the house, literally and figuratively.
You were talking about the premiere episode, The Little Match Girl.
Yes. Talk about a metaphor to kick things off. It's episode 1. We are back for the highly anticipated final season. The audience is pumped. And what happens? Rebecca decides to quit smoking.
Which is a very noble goal.
It is.
And it's very much on brand for Rebecca's constant, frantic attempts at self-improvement.
Right, but then she throws a lit cigarette into the office trash can.
Yep.
And she inadvertently burns down the bar.
It's such a shocking way to start a season.
It's completely explosive. I mean, you have the fire marshal assessing the damage, but think about the psychology of the writers in that room. You have this iconic set the bar itself.
Yeah.
It's been the physical home for 10 years. It's probably the most famous, recognizable room in America at that point. And in the very first script of the final season, they just torch it.
If we connect this to the bigger narrative picture, it feels incredibly metaphorical. Fire is traditionally a symbol of cleansing, of rebirth, but obviously of destruction too.
Right.
By burning the bar down right out of the gate, they are loudly signaling to the audience that things are not going to stay the same. The sanctuary is vulnerable now.
It's a massive disruption of the safe space of the sitcom. Because usually in a traditional sitcom, the set is sacred, it never changes. But here, they destroy the main hub immediately.
And look at what that destruction does to the characters. That's the real genius of it. The aftermath in episode 2, The Beer is Always Greener, is just as emotionally disruptive.
Right, because the bar is actively being rebuilt, so they can't just sit around on their stools drinking all day.
Exactly.
Wow.
Carla, the famously mean, venomous, aggressive waitress, she has to go out and find another job while the bar is closed.
And our source notes that she is, quote, forced to clean up her act and behave nicely.
Which is fundamentally against her very DNA.
It's hilarious watching Rhea Perlman try to force herself to be polite, but it's also kind of sad, isn't it?
It really is. But that is the brilliance of stripping away the physical bar. It reveals the character's deep dependencies on their environment. Carla is only truly Carla because Cheers allows her to be that way.
Right.
Take away that specific bar, and she has to wear this incredibly uncomfortable mask of niceness just to survive in the normal world.
It highlights how the bar actually protects them from reality. Without it, they're just deeply dysfunctional people who can barely hold down a regular job.
Exactly. And once that protection is gone, even temporarily due to the fire, we see how ill-equipped they are for the outside world. It perfectly sets the stakes for the finale. If the bar ever closes for good, these people are doomed.
Well, if we want to talk about being ill-equipped for reality, we absolutely have to move to segment 3, the deconstruction of the Cranes.
Oh boy.
Because this season, the writers didn't just burn down the bar, they took a massive sledgehammer to Frasier Crane's entire life.
This is arguably the most significant, long-lasting narrative arc of the entire season. And frankly, it is the most bizarre.
It is a complete train wreck, and I just cannot look away from it. It starts relatively normally with episode 6, Teaching with the Enemy.
Right, which is part 1 of a 2-part arc.
Rebecca spots Lilith Frasier's wife, the mother of his child, with another man, the other man.
And she faces this major moral dilemma, does she tell Frasier?
Yeah.
Which is fascinating because it puts Rebecca, who is usually the most self-centered character on the show, in a very rare position of moral authority.
Yeah, that's a great point. But honestly, that's just the appetizer. The main course is episode 7, The Girl in the Plastic Bubble.
Yes.
Now, I have to stop here, because when I was reading this in the source notes, I genuinely thought I was hallucinating.
It is certain that, well, it's a choice.
The plot is Lilith informs Frasier she wants to leave him. Okay, sad but realistic. TV marriages end, but why does she want to leave him? It's not for a colleague. It's not for a richer man. She leaves him to live in a quote-unquote biosphere underground with her lover for a year.
An ecopod.
An ecopod. Subterranean.
It sounds like pure science fiction crashing headfirst into a grounded sitcom. It's almost Looney Tunes logic.
It really is. I mean, try to imagine that pitch meeting. Okay, guys, Lilith leaves Frasier. Oh, sad for another psychiatrist. No, to live in a plastic bubble underground.
Right.
And then the image the source specifically described, a distraught Frasier ends up on a ledge, feigning suicide.
It's very dark comedy, and they pushed it to the absolute limit. But let's analyze why they actually did this, because I don't think this was just random late-stage wackiness.
Okay, what's your theory?
Lilith and Frasier were the ultimate power couple. They were the smug intellectuals who constantly looked down on the bar patrons. To break them up effectively, the writers couldn't just have an amicable, normal divorce.
Yeah.
It had to be something so profoundly absurd, so utterly humiliating for Frasier, that it completely shattered his ego.
But isn't it a bit much? I mean, having Frasier out on a ledge threatening to jump, even if he's feigning it, it kind of threatens to pull the show out of reality entirely.
I definitely see your point, but you have to remember what is coming next in the real world. The network already knows that Frasier, the spin-off series, is happening.
Oh, right.
They need to physically get Frasier from Boston to Seattle. And crucially, they need him to be single when he gets there.
So this entire bizarre arc is basically a targeted demolition job.
100%. They have to destroy his comfortable life in Boston so thoroughly that he has absolutely no reason to stay there. If Lilith just divorces him normally, he might logically stay in Boston to co-parent Frederick.
That makes sense.
But if she completely loses her mind and runs off to a subterranean ecopod with a wacky lover, that's deep trauma. That is a massive burn the bridges moment.
It certainly accomplished that, and it really does leave him adrift. If you look at the episodes following this incident, Frasier is effectively single for the rest of the series, and honestly, he's kind of a huge mess.
He is totally spiraling. Look at episode 12, Sunday Dinner. He's trying to desperately date his very young secretary, Shauna.
Which is such a classic, tragic midlife crisis move. It's actually painful to read about.
It is. And then it gets even messier in episode 16. Is there a doctor in the Howe? A surprise party for Frasier leads to him and Rebecca getting, well, a little too close.
Yeah, the source notes that things go a bit further than expected.
Which is just, it's so messy. Frasier and Rebecca, that screams sheer desperation from both of them.
It does. It feels exactly like two drowning people just grabbing onto each other because there's nothing else around. And then right when he's at his lowest, we get the closure of the arc in episode 17. The bar manager, the shrink, his wife, and her lover
Lilith returns from the ecopod.
The underground experiment is over.
Apparently so. And of course, she walks in and finds Rebecca actively consoling Frasier. But the really key detail here that our source points out, this is the final appearance of Bebe Neuwirth as Dr. Lilith Sternin on Cheers.
That's a huge deal. Bebe Neuwirth was absolutely incredible in that role. She won Emmys for it.
She was phenomenal. And her exit here is fascinating. Her lover from the ecopod actually takes extreme measures to get her back underground with him, but effectively she exits the show's main narrative for good, right here.
So if we step back and look at the whole picture, this season systematically dismantled Frasier Crane's life piece by piece.
Completely.
Yeah.
And I think that's absolutely crucial for the long-term legacy of the character. If Frasier ends Cheers happily married to Lilith, there is no Frasier the spinoff. They had to utterly destroy his happiness in Boston to make him movable.
Right.
They had to break him down completely so they could build him back up in a new city.
It's ruthless writing when you think about it. It's like, sorry, Frasier, your immense emotional pain is just necessary for our franchise expansion.
That's the cold reality of show business.
It really is. Now, while Frasier's life was turning into a Greek tragedy, the writers seemed to be having a lot of fun with some truly bizarre concepts elsewhere. Which brings us to segment 4. I like to call this Absurdity and Senioritis in the Writer's Room.
I love that title. There's a definite sense of senioritis going on, and I mean that in the best, most creative way possible.
Yeah.
It really feels like the writers suddenly realized, hey, we can do whatever we want. Who's going to stop us? We're the #1 show. We're ending in May anyway. Let's just get weird.
Let's get weird is almost an understatement based on these notes. Let's look at episode 11, Love Me, Love My Car. Now, the main plot is about Sam, which we'll get to later, but the subplot.
Oh, no.
Rebecca actively befriends a pig.
A pig that is destined to be Woody's Christmas dinner.
A live, squealing pig inside the bar.
It's high-concept absurdity. It feels like a plot line straight out of Green Acres, not the sophisticated rapid-fire repartee that Cheers was known for.
And then you have episode 9, Feelings. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Cliff Clavin starts a rumor. Now, we know Cliff always starts rumors. That's his thing. But what is this specific rumor? He tells people that Adolf Hitler has secretly moved into his apartment building.
That is just, it's a remarkably bold choice for a sitcom subplot.
It's insane. Cliff telling people Hitler is his neighbor. Even for a character as eccentric as Cliff, that seems like a massive stretch of reality.
It does, but it highlights the extreme eccentricity of Cliff's character as the years went on. It also shows the writers actively pushing the boundaries of taste and logic.
Right.
They're basically testing to see exactly how far they can bend the reality of the show before it completely snaps.
And then we have episode 14, It's a Mad, Mad, Mad Bar.
Which is a very clear, deliberate homage to the classic film. It's a mad, 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 mad world.
Exactly. The gang completely tears the bar apart, literally flipping the place upside down because they are desperately looking for Robin Colcord's hidden money.
It's pure, unadulterated slapstick. It's intense physical comedy. And our source notes it also marks the very last appearance of Roger Rees as Robin Colcord.
But my absolute favorite example of this senioritis satire, where the writers just decide to relentlessly roast society, is episode 21, Woody Gets an Election.
Ah, yes, the political satire episode.
The premise is just gold. Frasier wants to run an experiment in voter psychology. He basically wants to prove that the voting public are complete idiots, that they will mindlessly vote for anyone with a nice smile.
But our source explicitly notes that he does this because he, quote, couldn't find a monkey.
Right. He couldn't find a monkey to run, so he uses Woody instead.
The next best thing, at least in Frasier's mind.
So he formally runs Woody for city council against a seasoned incumbent. And what happens?
Against all logic, Woody wins.
Woody actually wins the election.
Now, this is where I think the show actually gets really sharp. It's a classic comedic trope, the lovable idiot failing upwards.
Sure.
But used here, this late in the final season, it feels like a really biting commentary on modern politics. The guy who literally thinks an ecopod is a type of vegetable connects with the voters way better than the educated intellectual.
I have to push back on this being just a standard trope, though, because isn't it a bit cynical for a show like Cheers? Usually the show has a very warm heart. Having Woody accidentally win an election he doesn't even understand feels almost mean-spirited toward the democratic process.
I can see why you'd say that, but look at the specific year. 1993. Broad political cynicism was really rising in America.
Okay, fair point.
The idea that a guy you'd want to have a beer with is somehow better suited for office than a policy wonk was becoming a very real, pervasive political sentiment. I think the writers were using Woody to say something very sharp about the electorate, rather than just making fun of Woody's intelligence.
That makes a lot of sense. And it's hilarious either way. Plus, it gives Woody a brand new status by the end of the show, Councilman Boyd.
Which is a really nice setup for his future, too.
Yeah.
He's not just the naive bartender anymore. He's an actual public official. God help the city of Boston.
Seriously, God help us all. Okay, let's move to segment 5 and discuss something a bit more combative. We've had fires, we've had divorces, we've had pigs, now we have war. The War of the Bars.
Yes. Bar Wars 7th, The Naked Prey.
Episode 19. Now, the Bar Wars episodes were a deeply beloved tradition on the show. Cheers versus Gary's Oldtown Tavern. Every single season, the pranks got more and more elaborate.
They were legendary.
And this one goes completely nuclear. It starts with a bet for St. Patrick's Day, and Cheers loses the bet.
And the penalty for losing is, well, it's severe. They must perform completely naked for Gary's patrons.
Talk about high stakes. So Sam knows he needs a ringer. He realizes he can't possibly outsmart Gary on his own this time. So he calls in the ultimate weapon, Harry the Hat Gets.
Played brilliantly by Harry Anderson.
Yeah.
A huge fan favorite. Harry the Hat hadn't actually been seen on the show in years, so this was a massive, highly anticipated callback for longtime fans.
Right. And Harry declines at first. He claims he's quote-unquote went straight. But then things get crazy. Gary's bar is bulldozed.
Completely flattened to the ground. Destroyed.
Sam is terrified. He genuinely thinks Gary did it himself. Like, maybe it's an elaborate insurance scam or he forced a sale just to frame Cheers. But then the real twist comes.
It is a brilliant double cross, wrapped inside a triple cross.
Gary introduces the wealthy real estate developer that he supposedly sold the land to.
Yep.
And who walks in the door?
Harry the Hat.
Harry bought the land. He was the one who bulldozed Gary's bar.
It is a stunning escalation of the usual prank war. Usually they just dump a bunch of sheep in the bar or dye the draft beer blue.
Yeah.
Here, Harry literally destroys the man's entire livelihood.
But here is the absolute kicker from the source. Harry cheerfully announces that the check he wrote to Gary for the land is going to bounce. He used a fake alias.
So Gary has absolutely no bar, and Gary has absolutely no money.
And Cheers wins by default. It is the ultimate victory. The game just luxuriates in it. They are celebrating the total, utter destruction of their bitter rival. Until Sam realizes that Harry quietly robbed the Cheers cash register on his way out the door.
I love that line. I'm a little light here, Sammy.
I love that ending so much. It is the absolute perfect send-off for the Harry the Hat character. He wins, and everyone else loses.
He is the ultimate agent of chaos. He absolutely destroys the rival, but he still taxes his friends.
Yeah.
It's remarkably consistent character work right up to the very end.
It is.
It reminds us that in the world of Cheers, nobody is purely good. Even the supposed hero of the episode is a compulsive thief.
It really is great writing. Okay, we need to shift gears for segment 6. Relationships and closure. We've talked about all the chaos, but we need to talk about the actual heart of the show. Because amidst all the pigs and bulldozers, there were some really heavy emotional beats this season, specifically regarding our main guy, Sam Malone.
Sam is the anchor of the whole series, and Sam is visibly struggling this season.
We see it clearly in episode 4, The Magnificent Six. Henri, the younger French guy, challenges Sam to a ladies' man contest to see who can get the most phone numbers.
Which, if you think about it, feels a bit pathetic at this stage, doesn't it? Sam is in his mid-40s now, competing with a guy in his 20s over bar napkins with phone numbers.
It really does. It feels deeply desperate. You can see Sam realizing in real time that his cool guy shtick is starting to look a little sad and dated.
And then you look at episode 11, Love Me, Love My Car. Sam actively romances a widow, played by Dana Delaney, just to buy back his old Corvette.
This episode really struck me when reviewing the notes. He sold the car earlier in the series, deeply regrets it, tracks it down, and realizes the new owner has died. So his solution is to date the grieving widow just to get close to the car.
That is such a crucial character note. He is desperately chasing his youth. That Corvette physically represents the Mayday Malone era. The baseball pitching, the perfect hair, the endless youth. He is literally willing to manipulate a grieving woman just to get his favorite toy back. It shows his massive attachment to the past. He is terrified of aging.
But then we get a moment of real, genuine reflection. Episode 25, The Guy Can't Help It, Sam finally joins a support group.
For sexual compulsives.
That feels like a massive breakthrough for him.
It absolutely is. For 11 straight years, Sam's compulsive womanizing was the main joke. It was celebrated by the bar. Sammy's got a date.
Yeah, they cheered him on.
But here, right at the very end of the series, the show finally acknowledges it as a real compulsion. Something that might actually be a serious problem. Something that is keeping him fundamentally lonely. It's a moment of maturity that we hadn't really seen from him before.
Meanwhile, as Sam is maturing, Rebecca is just spiraling out of control.
Her year is chaotic from start to finish. She quits smoking, which, as we discussed, causes a massive fire. She gets dangerously obsessed with a slot machine in episode 3, The King of Beers.
She's expecting a huge proposal from her plumber boyfriend, Don, in One for the Road.
And in Rebecca Gaines, Rebecca loses. She completely misinterprets an innocent society invite from Kelly's wealthy father as a romantic date. She is so desperate for high status and financial stability, and she just keeps missing the mark.
It's painful to watch, but it's also very funny. Kirstie Alley was just so good at playing that frantic, neurotic desperation.
She was the absolute perfect foil to Sam's laid-back cool.
And then we have Cliff Clavin, episode 24, Cliff's Murder Mystery.
This one is classic sitcom farce.
Cliff decides to put his mother in a retirement home.
Esther Clavin, the absolute bane of his existence.
Right. And because Cliff feels incredibly guilty about it, he's acting weird, he's being very evasive with his answers. So the bar gang, being the wonderfully supportive friends they are, immediately thinks.
They think he violently murdered her.
Naturally. They immediately jump to the conclusion that Cliff Clavin, the harmless mailman, has gone full psycho.
It's a classic misunderstanding plot, sure, but it actually permanently resolves the toxic Cliff and mom dynamic. He finally makes a difficult adult decision for his own life, even if the gang thinks he's a matricidal maniac for a few days. It shows that even Cliff is trying to grow up in his own weird, twisted way.
Which brings us finally to the big one. Segment 7, the grand finale. One for the Road.
May 20th, 1993.
The ultimate cultural event of the year.
The source data lists the official viewership at 80.4 million.
80.4 million people. Let that sink in.
To put that incredibly massive number in perspective, that is roughly the entire population of Germany at the time, all simultaneously watching a sitcom finale.
Everyone in the country was watching. I mean, I remember exactly where I was. You probably remember where you were.
It is consistently cited as one of the top 10 most watched scripted TV finales of all time. And the immense pressure on the writers must have been crushing. How do you definitively end a show about a place where the whole premise is that nobody ever leaves?
So let's break down what actually happens. First, the return.
Diane Chambers returns to Boston.
Shelley Long is back. This was heavily rumored, but it was still the biggest secret in Hollywood.
And she supposedly won a major award for her television writing. She seems incredibly successful.
But, as is typical with Diane Chambers, her life isn't exactly as glamorous as it appears on the surface. The source implies the success might be a bit exaggerated. Her life is still deeply messy.
And this unexpected return perfectly triggers the central conflict for Sam. The ultimate will they, won't they, playing out one last time.
Sam is potentially leaving Cheers for good. He seriously considers moving to California to be with it.
The dramatic tension was incredibly high for the audience. People genuinely didn't know if Sam would actually go through with it. It felt like a true 50-50 shot at the time.
But ultimately, he stays. He realizes finally that his true love isn't Diane, it's the bar itself.
That is the ultimate thesis of the entire show. The romantic relationships are fleeting and complicated, but the bar is eternal.
And we get nice little resolutions for the rest of the gang, too. Woody surprisingly gets Norm a job.
A civil service job, if I recall the notes correctly, which is utterly terrifying. Norm Peterson, working for the city government.
Cliff finally gets a promotion at the post office.
Rebecca hopes to wed Don. She finally, definitively chooses a normal working-class guy over a rich, manipulative tycoon, which is huge emotional growth for her. She stops chasing the Robin Colcords of the world and settles for the plumber who actually loves her.
And then there's the final discussion. The core gang just sitting around late at night, pondering the literal meaning of life.
It's surprisingly philosophically dense for a network sitcom. They are genuinely asking each other, what was this all for?
And the legacy of that moment. The source specifically notes that the episode ends with the strong feeling that their lives are going to go on.
But the cameras simply stops filming them.
Sam straightens the picture of Geronimo on the wall.
He walks over to the door. Someone knocks from the outside.
And he delivers that perfect final line. Sorry, we're closed.
It is the absolute perfect ending. It doesn't blow up their world, even though they quite literally burned it down earlier in the season. It just gently says, the story continues, but you don't get to watch them anymore. It's incredibly intimate.
It really is. It gives me chills just thinking about it right now. So as we head to the outro here, let's get your verdict on season 11.
Well, I think based entirely on the massive ratings data and the sheer density of the plot resolution we've discussed, it unequivocally stuck the landing.
Yeah.
It managed to beautifully balance the absurd sitcom elements, the pigs, the fires, Harry the Hat's elaborate cons, with very genuine, heavy emotional stakes like divorce, aging, and marriage.
It felt like a complete meal. It didn't just quietly fizzle out like so many shows do. It exploded, then it rebuilt itself, then it finally closed its doors.
It deeply respected the audience that had been there for a decade. It gave us the wackiness we expected, but it gave us the emotional closure we actually needed.
I completely agree. But before we wrap up this deep dive, here's a final provocative thought for you and for you listening at home. We talked earlier about the utter destruction of the Cranes.
Yes, we did.
Consider the overall trajectory of Frasier Crane this year. Season 11 systematically destroyed every pillar of his life. His wife abruptly leaves him for a man in an underground bubble. He attempts, or at least feigns, suicide on a ledge. He has these disastrous, humiliating dates. He is just humiliated over and over again.
It was brutal to watch.
So the question is, was the destruction of Frasier's happiness simply the necessary cost of Cheers' season 11 comedy? Or was it a highly calculated, deliberate demolition to carefully clear the site for the massive Frasier spin-off skyscraper that was about to be built? Did Cheers literally have to break him so that Frasier could fix him?
That is the ultimate question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sometimes you really have to hit absolute rock bottom before you can find the motivation to move across the country to Seattle. And sometimes, from a purely narrative standpoint, a character practically has to die in one show just to be successfully reborn in another.
Exactly. The EcoPod wasn't just a mistake. It was the necessary launch pad.
That's a really brilliant way to put it.
And on that note, thanks for taking this deep dive with us today. We're officially closed for the night.
Cheers.
See you next time.